There are certain nights when the past comes calling, not with the soft knock of memory, but with the violence of reckoning. This is the story of a man who believed he could outrun consequence, who thought love was something you could discard like worn gloves when something shinier caught your eye. Adrian Blackthorne was a duke who had everything: title, wealth, a family that worshipped him, and he threw it all away for a woman who saw him as nothing more than a ladder to climb. What he lost in that bargain would haunt him in ways he never imagined, and what you're about to witness is the slow, brutal unraveling of a man who finally understands that some doors, once closed, can never be opened again. Stay with me until the end, because this is where we see exactly what it costs to become a stranger to your own blood. The rain fell like punishment the night Adrian Blackthorne stood at the gates of Thornfield Manor, staring at the home he had not entered in 7 years. The iron bars were slick with water, cold beneath his gloved hands, and beyond them the windows of the east wing glowed with that particular amber warmth he used to take for granted. He had been 28 when he last walked these halls as a husband and father. Now at 35, he stood on the wrong side of his own gates like a beggar, and the irony was not lost on him. The manor loomed against the storm-dark sky, its stone facade unchanged, indifferent. Everything here remained exactly as he remembered. The climbing roses Eleanor had planted, now wild and overgrown, the stable yard where he used to lift Ethan onto his shoulders, the study window where he had stood countless times, looking out at this very gate, planning his escape from the life he thought was suffocating him. He had gotten his escape, and it had destroyed him. Adrian pulled his coat tighter, though the cold he felt had nothing to do with the weather. His driver waited in the carriage behind him, silent and judging in that way servants always were when they knew too much. The old man had served the Blackthorne family for 40 years. He remembered when Adrian brought Eleanor home as a bride. He remembered the day little Ethan was born. And he sure as hell remembered the morning Adrian rode away and did not come back. The gate was locked. Of course it was locked. Eleanor had changed everything after the divorce papers went through. The locks, the staff, even the name on the deed. Thornfield Manor no longer belonged to the Blackthornes in any legal sense. It belonged to Eleanor Ashford, formerly Blackthorne, and her son. Just her son now. Not theirs. Adrian had told himself 1,000 times over the years that he made the right choice. That Eleanor was too simple for him, too content with quiet country life. That Ethan was too young to remember, too young to be damaged by his absence. That Celeste Beaumont was the woman he was meant to be with. Beautiful, ambitious, alive in ways Eleanor never was. He had repeated these lies so often, they almost became truth. Almost. But standing here now, drenched and alone, he could not escape what he had known for months. Celeste had never loved him. She had loved his title, his money, his connections. And when those things became complicated, when society started whispering about the Duke who abandoned his family, when business partners began quietly withdrawing when the shine wore off, she had shown him exactly who she was: a user, a schemer, a woman who had already begun looking for her next mark. He rattled the gate, knowing it was pointless. No one would answer. No one would let him in. He was not welcome here. That much had been made clear through lawyers, through silence, through 7 years of absolutely nothing. The front door opened. Adrian's breath caught. A figure appeared on the steps, silhouetted against the light from the entrance hall. For one wild moment he thought it might be Eleanor, that she somehow sensed him out here and came to, what? Forgive him? Curse him? Let him in from the rain? But it was not Eleanor. It was a man Adrian had never seen before. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in simple country clothes. He stood on Adrian's former doorstep like he belonged there, like he had every right to be in Adrian's house, with Adrian's family. The man squinted through the rain toward the gate, then turned back inside, leaving the door open. Adrian's hands tightened on the iron bars until his knuckles went white. Who the hell was that? Some steward Eleanor had hired? Some distant relative come to visit? The possibilities scrolled through his mind, each one more infuriating than the last. Then he saw the boy. Ethan appeared in his doorway, small and quick, dodging around the tall man's legs. He was bigger now. Of course he was. 7 years bigger, but Adrian would have known him anywhere. That dark hair, same as his own. The shape of his face, still carrying some of Eleanor's softness, but showing the Blackthorne jawline starting to emerge. The boy wore a nightshirt and was barefoot despite the cold, laughing at something the man said. Adrian could not breathe, could not move. His son was right there, 50 yards away, alive and real and growing up without him. The tall man scooped Ethan up easily, hoisting him onto his shoulders. The boy shrieked with delight, grabbing fistfuls of the man's hair for balance. They disappeared back inside, the door closing behind them, and the light from the windows seemed to dim just a fraction. Adrian stood frozen at the gate, rain streaming down his face, and for the first time in years he felt something crack open inside his chest. Not the hot rush of anger or the cool calculations of ambition. This was something far worse. This was grief. Raw, unfiltered grief for what he had willingly thrown away. He had a sudden, violent urge to climb the gate, to force his way in, to grab his son and shake him until the boy remembered who his real father was. But he did nothing, because underneath the rage and the grief was something even more terrible, the knowledge that he had no right to that house, to that child, to any of it. Adrian turned and walked back to the carriage, each step feeling like wading through mud. The driver opened the door without a word. As they pulled away from Thornfield, Adrian looked back one last time at the glowing windows, at the life continuing inside without him, and he understood with perfect clarity that he had become a ghost in his own story. The ride back to his London townhouse took 4 hours. Adrian spent every minute of it staring out the window into darkness, seeing nothing but Ethan's face, hearing nothing but the echo of the boy's laughter. A laugh directed at someone else, a laugh that should have been his. By the time he reached the city, dawn was breaking over the Thames, gray and cold. The townhouse Celeste had insisted they buy was too large, too ornate. Everything about it designed to impress people Adrian no longer cared about impressing. He let himself in quietly, hoping she would still be asleep. She was not asleep. She was in his study. Their study, she always corrected him, sitting at his desk, going through his papers. Again, Celeste looked up when he entered, her beautiful face arranged in an expression of carefully calibrated concern. She was a master of expressions. He had once found it fascinating, the way she could shift from sultry to innocent to outraged in a heartbeat. Now it just made him tired. "You are soaked," she said, rising gracefully. "Where have you been all night?" "Out," Adrian said, moving to the liquor cabinet. It was 6 in the morning, but he did not care. "Out where?" Her tone sharpened just a fraction. "You did not send word. I did not realize I needed permission to come and go." He poured 3 fingers of whiskey, drank half of it in one swallow. Celeste's eyes narrowed. She came around the desk, her silk dressing gown whispering against the carpet. She was stunning. There was no denying that. Dark hair cascading over her shoulders, skin like cream, curves that had driven him half mad with wanting in the beginning. But standing in front of her now, all he could see was calculation. All he could feel was the weight of her expectations. "You went to see them," she said. It was not a question. Adrian finished his drink, poured another. "What if I did?" "We discussed this, Adrian. We agreed it was better to leave the past in the past." Her hand on his arm, light and possessive. "You cannot keep torturing yourself over decisions you made years ago. Decisions we made, you mean." He pulled away from her touch. "Or have you forgotten whose idea it was to formalize the separation, to make it permanent?" Something flickered across her face, annoyance maybe, or fear that her control was slipping. "You were miserable with her, darling. You said so yourself. Eleanor was dragging you down, keeping you from your potential. I freed you from all that. Freed me." Adrian laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that what you call it? What else would I call it?" Celeste's voice took on that wounded quality she used when she wanted him to comfort her, to apologize, to fall back in line. "I have given you everything, Adrian, everything you said you wanted. A life without obligations, without boring country routines, without a wife who did not understand your ambitions. And now you want to throw it all away to play father to a child who does not even know you?" "He does know me," Adrian said quietly. "Or at least, he knows what I did to him. He knows I left." Celeste waved a dismissive hand. "He is a child. He will forget. Children always forget." "Will he?" "Because I do not think I would forget if my father abandoned me." Her expression shifted again, this time to exasperation. "My God, Adrian, you are being absurd. You act as though you committed some terrible crime. You fell out of love with your wife and in love with me. It happens. People change. Marriages end. It is not the tragedy you are making it out to be." "I did not fall out of love with Eleanor," Adrian heard himself say. I convinced myself I did because you told me I did. I convinced myself she was not enough because you kept whispering that she was not. I convinced myself my son would be fine without me because it made it easier to justify what I wanted to do. Celeste stared at him, and for the first time since he had known her, she looked genuinely shocked. Excuse me? You heard me. Adrian set down his glass with enough force that it cracked. I let you poison everything I had because I was weak and selfish and stupid. I thought you were this incredible woman who saw something in me that Eleanor did not. But you did not see me at all, did you? You saw a title. You saw money. You saw a way up. Her shock curdled into fury. How dare you speak to me like this after everything I have done for you? Done for me? Adrian cut her off, his voice rising. You have done nothing for me except spend my money, ruin my reputation, and isolate me from everyone who actually gave a damn about me. My wife, my son, my friends. Every single person who mattered, you drove away, and I let you do it because I was too blind to see what you really were. Celeste's hand flew toward his face, but he caught her wrist, held it. They stood there, frozen in a tableau of mutual contempt, and Adrian saw with perfect clarity the woman he had destroyed his life for. Beautiful, yes. Charming, absolutely. But underneath all of it, there was nothing. No loyalty, no depth, just hunger dressed up as love. He released her wrist. We are done, he said. You do not mean that, Celeste said, but her voice shook. I mean it more than I have meant anything in years. Adrian walked to the door, opened it. I want you out of this house by the end of the week. She followed him into the hallway, her composure crumbling. You cannot just throw me out, Adrian. I have nowhere to go. I have no money. You have plenty of money. My money. The money you have been systematically transferring to accounts under your brother's name for the past 2 years. Did you think I would not notice? Celeste went very still. Her face paled. I am not as stupid as you think I am, Adrian continued. I hired an investigator 3 months ago. I know about the debts you racked up in my name. I know about the forged contracts. I know about the investors you cheated using my reputation as collateral. And I know that when this all falls apart, you plan to disappear and leave me holding the blame. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked for the first time since he had known her, utterly lost. Get out, Adrian said, and pray I do not decide to press charges. Celeste turned and fled up the stairs. Adrian listened to her footsteps fade, then walked slowly back into the study. He sank into his chair, suddenly exhausted. The sun was fully up now, spilling harsh light across the papers on his desk, bills, summons, threatening letters from creditors. The life he had built with Celeste was collapsing, and he could not bring himself to care. All he could think about was Ethan's laugh. The way the boy had looked so happy, so safe, in the arms of a stranger. Adrian had told himself so many lies over the years, that Eleanor had been the problem, that Ethan was too young to matter, that love was about passion and excitement, not commitment and showing up. But the man who walked into this study was not the same man who had walked out 7 years ago, and the lies no longer fit. He pulled open the bottom drawer of his desk and took out the only photograph he had kept from his old life. It was wrinkled and faded now, but he could still make out Eleanor's smile, the way she held baby Ethan against her chest, protective and proud. Adrian was in the picture too, standing behind them, his hand on Eleanor's shoulder. He looked happy. He looked like a man who had everything. He had been that man once. He could barely remember what it felt like. The door to the study opened. Adrian shoved the photograph back in the drawer and looked up, expecting Celeste with some new manipulation or threat. But it was his valet, Henderson, a man even older than the carriage driver. Forgive the intrusion, Your Grace, Henderson said, but you have a visitor. Adrian frowned. At this hour? Who? A gentleman who would not give his name. He says it concerns Thornfield Manor. Adrian was on his feet before Henderson finished speaking. Send him in. The man who entered was the same man Adrian had seen on the steps the night before. Up close, he was younger than Adrian had thought, maybe 40, with the weathered look of someone who spent most of his time outdoors. He wore a simple coat and carried himself with the quiet confidence of a person who had nothing to prove. Duke Blackthorne, the man said, extending his hand. I am Nathaniel Reed. Adrian did not take the hand. Who the hell are you, and what are you doing in my house? Nathaniel lowered his hand, unbothered. I am a physician in Ashford-on-Sea. I have been treating the boy, Ethan, for a chest complaint. Mrs. Blackthorne asked me to deliver a message. Eleanor asked you to come here. Adrian's mind raced. Why would she not write? She thought you might ignore a letter. Nathaniel reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. She wants you to know that if you attempt to visit Thornfield again, she will seek a restraining order. She wants you to leave them alone. Adrian took the envelope, hands shaking. He tore it open. Eleanor's handwriting, still the same graceful script he remembered, filled a single page. Adrian, it read, I do not know what possessed you to come to Thornfield last night, but I need you to understand that you have no place in our lives anymore. You made your choice 7 years ago when you left us for your mistress. You made it again when you divorced me to protect your affair. And you made it every single day since when you sent no word, no support, nothing but silence. Ethan does not ask about you anymore. He has stopped waiting for you. That is the kindness time has given him, the ability to forget you. Do not take that away from him now. Do not appear at our door asking for forgiveness or a second chance. You do not deserve either. If you have any decency left, you will honor this request and let us live in peace. Eleanor. Adrian read it twice, 3 times. The words did not change. She is right, he said quietly. Nathaniel tilted his head. Pardon? She is right. About all of it. Adrian folded the letter carefully, slid it back into the envelope. I do not deserve forgiveness. I do not deserve a second chance. Then you will leave them alone? Nathaniel's tone was neutral, but his eyes were watchful, protective. Adrian looked at this stranger, this man who had somehow become part of his son's life, who stood on the steps of his former home like he belonged there, who clearly cared enough about Eleanor and Ethan to travel 4 hours to deliver a message in person, and felt another crack split open in his chest. Tell me something, Adrian said. Are you involved with my wife? Nathaniel's expression did not change. That is not your concern. The hell it is not. You lost the right to be concerned about Eleanor's life when you abandoned her, Nathaniel said, and there was steel in his voice now. She was alone for 3 years, Adrian. 3 years of raising your son by herself, of dealing with the whispers and the pity, of wondering what she did wrong to make you leave. Do you have any idea what that did to her? No, Adrian said. I do not. Nathaniel studied him for a long moment. When I met her, she did not smile anymore. She barely spoke except to Ethan. She lived like a ghost in that manner, just existing. It took 2 years before she laughed again, before she started believing she was worth something. And you helped her, Adrian said. You helped her heal. I did what any decent person would do. I treated her with basic human kindness. Apparently that was more than she had gotten in a very long time. Adrian sat down heavily. You are right. You are absolutely right. I am a bastard and she deserves better, and my son deserves better, and I have no business showing up now expecting anything. Then why did you show up? Nathaniel asked. Because I could not stay away anymore, Adrian said. Because I looked around at the life I built and realized it was all garbage. Because I saw my son for 5 seconds, and it broke something in me that I did not even know was there. Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Ethan is a good boy, smart, kind. He helps his mother without being asked. He is gentle with animals. He has friends at school, does well with his studies. He is happy. Good, Adrian said. That is good. He is also terrified that you will come back and take him away from everything he knows. Adrian's head snapped up. What? When Eleanor told him you might try to visit, he had nightmares for a week. He is 8 years old, and he thinks his father is going to drag him back to London, away from his mother, away from his home. That is what you represent to him. Not love, not safety, fear. The words landed like blows. Adrian felt them in his ribs, in his throat, in the hollow space where his heart used to be. I would never, he started. He does not know that, Nathaniel said. He does not know you at all. Adrian covered his face with his hands. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. What do I do? You leave them alone, Nathaniel said. Like Eleanor asked, you walk away and you let that boy grow up in peace. That is the only thing you can do for him now. Adrian lowered his hands. Nathaniel was watching him with something that might have been pity. Does he ever ask about me? Adrian said. Used to. Not anymore. What did he ask? where you were, why you left, if you were coming back. What did Eleanor tell him? The truth, that you chose someone else. Adrian nodded slowly. That is fair. Nathaniel moved toward the door, then paused. For what it is worth, Your Grace, I do not think you are a monster. I think you are a man who made terrible choices and now has to live with them. But living with them means accepting that some damage cannot be undone. Some doors cannot be reopened. If you really love your son, you will let him be happy, even if that happiness does not include you. He left. Adrian sat alone in his study as the morning light grew stronger, turning everything harsh and pitiless. Somewhere in the house, Celeste was packing her things, probably cursing his name, probably already planning her next move. Somewhere in the city, creditors were adding up his debts, lawyers were preparing cases, society was sharpening its knives. And somewhere on the coast, in a manner that used to be his son was eating breakfast and getting ready for school and living a life that had absolutely nothing to do with him. Adrian pulled out the photograph again, looked at the man he used to be, the man who had held everything precious in his hands and let it slip through his fingers because he thought there was something better waiting. There was not anything better. There never had been. He put the photograph in his pocket, stood up, and walked out of the study. He did not know what he was going to do, but for the first time in 7 years, he understood exactly what he had lost, and that understanding was a weight he would carry for the rest of his life. 3 months later, Adrian stood in a courtroom and watched Celeste Beaumont led away in handcuffs, convicted of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. She had tried to pin it all on him at first, but the evidence was too clear, the trail too obvious. She was going to prison for 5 years, maybe more if other victims came forward. Adrian felt nothing watching her go. Not vindication, not grief, not even relief. Just a vast emptiness where his feelings for her used to be. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him, shouting questions about the trial, about his failed marriage, about his abandoned family. He pushed through them without answering, climbed into his carriage, and told the driver to take him anywhere but here. They ended up at a park near the river. Adrian walked for hours, collar turned up against the autumn wind, hands shoved in his pockets. Children played on the grass, their laughter carrying across the water. He watched them and thought about Ethan, wondered what his son was doing right now, wondered if he ever thought about his father anymore. Probably not. That was the hardest part, knowing that he had become irrelevant, that he had deleted himself from his own child's story so completely that there was nothing left to remember. He found a bench and sat, staring at the water. The sun was setting, turning everything gold. It was beautiful, empty, like his life. A newspaper lay abandoned on the bench beside him. He picked it up, more for something to do than any real interest. But when he unfolded it, a headline caught his eye. Local physician honored for service to coastal communities. The article was about Nathaniel Reed, about his work opening a clinic in Ashford-on-Sea, treating people who could not afford doctors, teaching basic medicine to fishermen and farmers. There was a photograph of him shaking hands with some government official, smiling that calm, confident smile. And in the background of the photo, barely visible but unmistakable, was Eleanor. She wore a simple dress and her hair was pulled back, and she was smiling too. Actually smiling. Looking at Nathaniel the way she used to look at Adrian, back when he deserved it. Adrian stared at that photograph until the light faded and he could not see it anymore. Then he folded the newspaper carefully, set it back on the bench, and walked back to his carriage. He did not go home. He went to his lawyer's office. "I need you to set up a trust," he said, "for Eleanor and Ethan Blackthorne. Anonymous. Enough to keep the manor running, to pay for the boys' education, to make sure they never want for anything." The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "How much are we talking about?" "Everything," Adrian said. "Everything I have left after the creditors are paid. Set it up so they cannot trace it back to me. I do not want them to know it came from me." "Your Grace, that would leave you with almost nothing." "I know," Adrian said. "Do it anyway." A week later, the trust was established. Adrian signed away his fortune, his properties, everything but the London townhouse, and a small income to live on. He kept one thing, the photograph of his family. The rest he sent to Eleanor and Ethan, laundered through enough legal channels that it would look like an inheritance from some distant relative. He did not expect gratitude. He did not expect acknowledgement. He just needed to know they would be all right. That was all he could give them now. Winter came. Adrian lived quietly in his townhouse, refusing invitations, avoiding society. People whispered about his fall from grace, about the Duke who lost everything to a scheming mistress. He let them whisper. It was not the whole truth, but it was close enough. One night in December, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper in Eleanor's handwriting. I know it was you, it said. The trust, the money. I do not know why you did it or what you expect in return, but I want you to understand something. This does not change anything. This does not make you Ethan's father again. This does not mean you are forgiven. Money cannot buy back lost time or heal the wounds you caused, but it will help us. So I am accepting it. Not for me, for him, because he deserves every opportunity you denied him when you left. Do not contact us again. Do not try to see him. If you want to do something good, then stay away. That is the only gift you can give us now. Eleanor. Adrian read the letter a dozen times. Then he folded it carefully and put it in the drawer with the photograph. She was right. She was always right. He could not buy forgiveness. He could not undo the past. All he could do was stay away and hope that somewhere, on a quiet coast, his son was growing up safe and loved by people who actually deserved him. That night, Adrian dreamed of Thornfield, of walking those familiar halls, of hearing Ethan's voice calling for him. But in the dream, when he tried to answer, no sound came out. He was a ghost in his own house, invisible and voiceless, watching his family live without him. He woke up gasping, tears on his face, and understood that this was his life now. This was his punishment. Not prison, not poverty, just this, knowing exactly what he had lost, and living with it every single day and never being allowed to fix it. Outside his window, snow began to fall. Christmas was coming. Somewhere, Eleanor was decorating Thornfield. Somewhere, Ethan was writing a list for Father Christmas, maybe sitting on Nathaniel's lap while he did it, maybe calling that good man Dad without even thinking about it. And Adrian sat alone in the dark, holding a photograph of people who did not want him anymore, and finally understood the true cost of the choices he had made. But the story was not over, because 3 weeks later, on a frozen January morning, Adrian's driver arrived with news that would change everything. There had been an accident at Thornfield, a fire in the East Wing. Eleanor was fine, but Ethan had been trapped inside. The word trapped hit Adrian like a fist to the gut. He was already moving before his driver finished the sentence, grabbing his coat, shouting for the carriage to be readied. His hand shook as he climbed inside, and the world narrowed to a single thought repeating like a drumbeat. Not him, not him, not my son. The 4-hour journey to Thornfield felt like drowning in slow motion. Adrian could not sit still. He kept seeing fire, kept imagining those small hands beating against a locked door, kept hearing screams that existed only in his head. The driver pushed the horses hard, but it was not hard enough, would never be hard enough. And Adrian wanted to tear through the carriage roof and run the rest of the way on foot just to be doing something. He had spent months convincing himself that staying away was the right choice, the noble choice, that loving Ethan meant letting him go. But nobility meant nothing when your child was burning. They arrived at dawn. The east wing of Thornfield Manor was a blackened skeleton against the pale sky, smoke still rising from the ruins. The smell of it, charred wood and burned fabric and something else he could not identify and did not want to, made his stomach turn. People swarmed the grounds, neighbors, servants, men with buckets still trying to douse the last of the flames, even though it was clearly too late. Adrian was out of his carriage before it fully stopped. He grabbed the nearest person, some boy he did not recognize. "The child," Adrian said. "Ethan Blackthorne." "Where is he?" The boy's eyes went wide. He pointed toward the front of the manor. "Doctor's got him inside, sir. But he ain't waking up." Adrian shoved past him and ran. His boots skidded on the wet gravel. The front door hung open and he burst through it into the entrance hall. And there, on the floor near the stairs, was a scene that would be burned into his memory forever. Nathaniel Reed knelt beside a small figure wrapped in blankets. Eleanor sat on the floor next to them, her face streaked with soot and tears, her hands clutching Ethan's limp hand. The boy's face was pale, his lips tinged blue, his chest rising and falling in shallow gasps that rattled. Adrian stopped breathing. Eleanor looked up. When she saw him, something flickered across her face. Shock, then anger, then something too exhausted to have a name. "What are you doing here?" she said. Her voice was hoarse from smoke. "I heard," Adrian said. The fire. I came as soon as... You need to leave, Eleanor said. Now. Eleanor... Adrian took a step forward. Please, is he... Nathaniel looked up then, and his expression was hard as stone. He's alive, Nathaniel said. Barely. He breathed in too much smoke. His lungs are damaged. We need to keep him stable until we can get him to a proper hospital. Then get him to a hospital, Adrian said. Take my carriage. It is fast. We cannot move him, Nathaniel said. Not yet. His breathing is too shallow. The journey could kill him. The words landed like blows. Adrian's knees almost gave out. He forced himself to stay standing, forced himself to look at his son's face, at those closed eyes and that small chest struggling for air. How did it start? Adrian said. The fire. We do not know, Eleanor said. She was not looking at him. She stared at Ethan like if she looked away, he might disappear. He was sleeping. I woke up to smoke, and by the time I got to his room, the whole corridor was burning. Nathaniel pulled him out. If he had been 5 minutes later, she could not finish. Her whole body shook. Adrian wanted to go to her, to put his arms around her, to promise that everything would be all right. But he had no right to comfort her, no right to touch her. He had given up those rights 7 years ago. What can I do? Adrian said. Tell me what to do. You can leave, Eleanor said, and now she did look at him. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. You can go back to London and leave us alone like I asked you to. I am not leaving, Adrian said. Not while he is like this. You have no say here, Eleanor said. You are not his father anymore. You are nothing to him. The words were meant to hurt, and they did, slicing through him clean and deep. But Adrian did not move. He looked at Nathaniel instead. What does he need? Adrian said. Medicine? Equipment? I can get anything. He needs rest, Nathaniel said, and prayer and time. That is all any of us can give him right now. Then I will wait, Adrian said. No, Eleanor started. I will wait, Adrian said again, louder. You can hate me all you want, Eleanor. You can curse my name and wish me dead, and I would deserve every bit of it. But I am not walking away from him again. Not now. Not when he needs... He does not need you, Eleanor said, and her voice cracked. He needed you 7 years ago when you left. He needed you when he cried himself to sleep, asking why his papa did not love him anymore. He needed you when the other children asked where his father was, and he had no answer. He does not need you now, Adrian. He does not even know you are here. I know, Adrian said quietly, but I need to be here anyway. Something in Eleanor's face shifted. She looked at him for a long moment, really looked at him, and whatever she saw there must have told her he was not leaving because she turned away without another word. Nathaniel stood. Come with me, he said to Adrian. They walked to the study. Adrian's old study, though it looked different now. The furniture had been rearranged. Eleanor's paintings hung on the walls. There was a small desk in the corner covered in Ethan's schoolwork, pages of careful handwriting, drawings of ships and horses, a half-finished arithmetic lesson. Adrian's throat tightened. He forced himself to look away. She blames herself, Nathaniel said, for the fire. It was not her fault, Adrian said. I know that. But she was sleeping when it started. She thinks she should have woken up sooner, should have smelled the smoke sooner, should have gotten to him faster. Nathaniel poured 2 glasses of brandy, handed one to Adrian. She is going to tear herself apart over this. Then tell her it was not her fault, Adrian said. I have been telling her that for 3 hours. She does not believe me. Nathaniel drank, set down his glass. She will not believe anyone right now. Guilt is not rational. Adrian knew about guilt. He had been drowning in it for months. He took a drink, felt the burn, welcomed it. How long have you been with them? Adrian said. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. That is what you want to talk about right now. I want to know who has been taking care of my family while I was not. Your family, Nathaniel repeated. Is that what you think they are? They were, Adrian said. Once. And whose fault is it that they are not anymore? Nathaniel's voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. You do not get to show up after 7 years and claim ownership, Your Grace. You do not get to walk in here and act like the concerned father when you have spent nearly a decade proving you are anything but. I know what I am, Adrian said. I know what I did. But that boy upstairs is still my son, my blood. And if he dies, he will not die Nathaniel said sharply. I will not let him die. Adrian looked at this man, this stranger who loved his family better than he ever had, and felt something twist in his chest. Are you in love with her? He said. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. That is not your concern. Answer the question. Why? Nathaniel said. What difference does it make? It makes every difference, Adrian said. Because if you love her, if you love him, then you will understand why I cannot leave. You will understand that even if I have no right to be here, even if they do not want me here, I have to stay. Because the thought of him dying without me, at least trying to... He stopped, swallowed hard, started again. I have already lost him once, Adrian said. I cannot lose him again, not like this. Nathaniel studied him for a long moment. Then he said, Yes. Yes, what? Yes, I am in love with her. I have been for over a year, and yes, I love that boy like he is my own. Which is why I am telling you that the best thing you can do for both of them is to leave before you make this worse. How could I possibly make this worse? By giving Eleanor hope, Nathaniel said. By making her think that maybe you have changed, that maybe you actually care, and then disappearing again when it gets hard. By confusing Ethan if he wakes up and sees you here. By turning their grief into a battleground for your own redemption. I am not looking for redemption, Adrian said. Then what are you looking for? I do not know, Adrian said honestly. I just know I cannot leave. Nathaniel looked like he wanted to argue, but footsteps in the hall stopped him. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, her face pale. His breathing changed, she said. Nathaniel, you need to come now. They ran. Adrian followed, his heart hammering. Back in the entrance hall, Ethan's small chest was moving faster, his breaths coming in quick, shallow gasps. His eyes were still closed, but his face twisted like he was in pain. Nathaniel dropped to his knees, checked Ethan's pulse, listened to his breathing. Then he looked at Eleanor. We need to move him, Nathaniel said. Now. The damage is getting worse. If we do not get him to a hospital in the next hour... My carriage, Adrian said. It is fast. I will drive it myself if I have to. You cannot drive it yourself. You do not know the roads, Nathaniel said. But yes, we will use your carriage. Eleanor looked at Adrian, then at Ethan, then back at Adrian. She nodded once. All right. They wrapped Ethan in more blankets, and Nathaniel lifted him carefully, so carefully, like the boy was made of glass. Adrian led them outside where his driver already had the horses ready. Nathaniel climbed in with Ethan cradled in his arms. Eleanor climbed in after him. Adrian started to follow, but Eleanor held up a hand. No, she said. There is not enough room. Then I will ride up with the driver, Adrian said. Adrian, please. I am coming, Adrian said. He looked at her, and for the first time in 7 years, he let her see everything, the grief, the guilt, the desperate clawing need to do something, anything to help. I am coming, Eleanor. You can hate me the whole way there, but I am coming. She stared at him. Then she pulled back and let him climb up onto the driver's bench. The hospital was in the next town, 20 miles of rough country roads. The driver pushed the horses to the edge of their endurance. Adrian held on, his knuckles white, his mind racing. He kept thinking about all the times he should have been there and was not. Ethan's first day of school, his first lost tooth, his birthday parties. Every milestone, every moment, every memory that should have been his but belonged to someone else now. If the boy died without ever knowing that his father loved him, if he died thinking Adrian had abandoned him because he was not good enough, if those were the last thoughts in his small head, Adrian could not finish the thought. It was too terrible, too final. They reached the hospital just as the sun broke over the hills. Nathaniel carried Ethan inside, and doctors swarmed immediately, taking the boy from his arms and disappearing through a set of double doors. Eleanor tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her, said they needed to work, said she would only be in the way. Eleanor stood in the middle of the hallway looking lost. Nathaniel put his arm around her shoulders, and she collapsed against him, finally letting herself cry. Adrian watched from the entrance, still covered in soot and sweat, and felt like an intruder at his own son's deathbed. Hours passed. They sat in a waiting room that smelled of carbolic and fear. Eleanor and Nathaniel on one side, Adrian on the other, an invisible line drawn between them that no one acknowledged but everyone felt. No one spoke. What was there to say? Adrian kept seeing that small, pale face, those blue lips, that rattling breath. He kept thinking, this is my fault. If he had been a better man, a better father, if he had not left, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe they would not have been living in that manner. Maybe Ethan would have been somewhere safer. Maybe. The word was a poison. Finally, after what felt like days but was probably only 3 or 4 hours, a doctor emerged. He looked tired, but his expression gave nothing away. "Mrs. Blackthorne," he said. Eleanor shot to her feet. Nathaniel and Adrian right behind her. "How is he?" Eleanor said. He is alive," the doctor said, "and stable. For now. We have given him oxygen and medicine to help his lungs. The next 24 hours will be critical. If he makes it through the night without complications, his chances improve significantly." "Can I see him?" Eleanor said. "Of course." The doctor gestured down the hall. "But only 2 visitors at a time. He needs rest." Eleanor looked at Nathaniel. They walked toward the room together. Adrian started to follow, but the doctor stopped him. "Are you family?" the doctor asked. "I am his father," Adrian said. The doctor's expression shifted slightly. "I see. Well, as I said, only 2 visitors at a time. You will have to wait your turn." Adrian nodded. He watched Eleanor and Nathaniel disappear into the room, then sank back into his chair. The doctor left. Adrian was alone. He sat there for over an hour. Nurses walked past. Other visitors came and went. The sun climbed higher, and Adrian waited. Finally, Nathaniel emerged. He looked exhausted. "You can go in," Nathaniel said, "but do not wake him. And do not stay long. He needs to rest." "How is she?" Adrian asked. Barely holding it together. Nathaniel ran a hand through his hair. "She has not eaten. She has not slept. She is going to make herself sick if she keeps this up." "Make her eat," Adrian said. "I will sit with him." Nathaniel looked like he wanted to argue, but he was too tired. "All right," he said. "But Adrian?" "What?" "If you upset her, if you say or do anything that makes this harder for her, I will throw you out of this hospital myself. Duke or no Duke?" Adrian nodded. "Understood." He walked down the hall and pushed open the door to Ethan's room. It was small and white and smelled of medicine. Ethan lay in the bed, so small he barely made a shape under the blankets. His face was still pale, but his breathing was deeper now, more regular. Tubes ran from his arms. A machine beside the bed tracked his heartbeat in soft, steady beeps. Eleanor sat in a chair next to him, holding his hand. She did not look up when Adrian entered. He stood just inside the door, not sure what to do, where to go, how to be in this space. "Nathaniel said you need to eat," Adrian said quietly. "I am not hungry." "You need to eat anyway." "For him. You will not be any good to him if you collapse." She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. "Do not tell me what I need, Adrian. You have no idea what I need. I know you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of him." She looked away. After a moment, she said, "Why are you here?" "Because he is my son." "You gave up the right to call him that." "I know," Adrian said, "but it does not change the fact that he is." Eleanor's hand tightened on Ethan's. "For 7 years I have done this alone," she said. 7 years of scraped knees and nightmares and fevers, and I did all of it without you. I learned how to be both mother and father because you decided we were not worth staying for. And now you show up because there was a fire and suddenly you care? "I have always cared," Adrian said. She laughed, bitter and sharp. "You have a strange way of showing it." "I know I do not have the right to be here," Adrian said. "I know you want me gone. But, Eleanor, please, let me stay, just until we know he is all right." "And then what?" she said. "Then you disappear again? Go back to your life in London and forget about us until the next crisis?" "I do not know," Adrian said. "I do not have answers for you. I do not have excuses. All I have is the truth, which is that I was a coward and a fool, and I threw away the best things in my life because I thought there was something better out there. And there was not. There was nothing, just emptiness and regret and the knowledge that I destroyed the people I should have protected." Eleanor was crying now, silent tears running down her face. "I loved you," she said. "I loved you so much it felt like my heart would break from it. And you looked at me like I was nothing, like I was in your way, like loving me was a burden you could not wait to put down." "You were never a burden," Adrian said. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too stupid to see it." She shook her head. "You do not get to do this. You do not get to come here and say these things and make me feel—" "What?" Adrian said. Make you feel what? Confused, she said. Angry. Like maybe I should forgive you even though you do not deserve it. I do not want your forgiveness, Adrian said. I want you to let me help. That is all. Just let me be useful for once in my miserable life. They sat in silence. The machine beeped. Ethan's chest rose and fell. Outside the window, the world continued turning like nothing was wrong. Finally, Eleanor said, There's a tea room down the street. Go get me something to eat, and bring enough for Nathaniel, too. Adrian nodded and left before she could change her mind. He walked through the hospital corridors in a daze, made it outside, found the tea room, ordered sandwiches and tea and biscuits, probably too much food, but he did not know what they would want. The woman behind the counter looked at him strangely, and he realized he was still covered in soot, still smelled like smoke, probably looked half mad. He did not care. He paid and carried the food back to the hospital and found Nathaniel in the waiting room. Eleanor asked me to bring this, Adrian said, handing over half the food. For you. Nathaniel took it, surprised. Thank you. Adrian nodded and turned to go, but Nathaniel said, Wait. Adrian stopped. I was wrong, Nathaniel said. Earlier, when I said you should leave. You were right, Adrian said. I should leave. But I cannot. I know, Nathaniel said. I see that now. He looked down at the food in his hands. She still loves you, you know, Eleanor. She will not admit it, maybe does not even realize it herself, but she does. That is why she is so angry. If she did not love you, she would not care enough to be this hurt. Adrian felt something crack open in his chest. That only makes it worse, he said. I know, Nathaniel said, but I thought you should know anyway. He stood and walked away, leaving Adrian alone with the weight of that knowledge. Adrian brought the food to Eleanor. She ate mechanically, not tasting it, her eyes never leaving Ethan's face. Adrian sat in the corner and watched them both. Mother and son. His family. A family he had destroyed and somehow, impossibly, might be allowed to exist beside again. If the boy lived. If Eleanor could find it in herself to let him stay. If night fell. The doctors came and went. Ethan's condition held steady but did not improve. Eleanor refused to leave his side. Nathaniel brought her blankets. Adrian stood guard outside the door like a sentinel, making sure no one disturbed them, making himself useful in the only way he knew how. Around midnight, Eleanor emerged. She looked like a ghost. I need air, she said. Adrian followed her outside. They stood in the hospital garden, surrounded by winter bare trees. The sky was clear and full of stars. Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself. I keep thinking about the night you left, she said. How you told me you did not love me anymore. How you said Ethan would be fine without you. How you promised you would send money for his care and then did not even do that for 3 years. I am sorry, Adrian said. It does not fix anything, but I am sorry. Why now? She said. Why did you set up that trust? Why did you come to Thornfield that night months ago? What changed? I saw what my life actually was, Adrian said. I saw that Celeste never loved me, that everything I thought I wanted was a lie, that I had traded something real for something hollow. And I saw Ethan, just for a few seconds through the window. I saw him laughing with Nathaniel, and I realized another man had become his father, that I had given away my place in his life and someone better had taken it. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Nathaniel is a good man. I know. He loves us. Both of us. I know. He wants to marry me. Adrian felt like he had been punched. He forced himself to breathe through it. What did you say? I have not answered yet, Eleanor said, because I do not know if I can. Because even after everything, even after 7 years, part of me still... She stopped, shook her head. Part of you still what? Adrian said. Hates you, she finished. Part of me still hates you so much I can barely stand to be in the same room. But another part remembers what we had, what we could have been, and it makes me so angry I could scream. Then scream, Adrian said. Yell at me, hit me, whatever you need to do, do it. I can take it. I do not want to yell at you, Eleanor said. I want to go back in time and stop you from leaving. I want to save us before we break. But I cannot do that. No one can. So all I am left with is this. Standing in a hospital garden while our son fights to breathe and feeling like my whole world is ending. He is going to make it, Adrian said. He has to. You do not know that, Eleanor said. No one knows that. She was right. He did not know. All he had was hope, and hope had never been enough before. They stood there in the cold, not touching, not speaking, just existing in the same space. And for the first time in 7 years, it did not feel like war. It felt like something else, something fragile, something that might almost be a beginning. But before either of them could name it, a nurse burst through the doors. "Mrs. Blackthorne," she said, breathless. "You need to come now. Your son, he is seizing." Eleanor ran. Adrian ran. They burst through the hospital doors and down the corridor, their footsteps echoing off the sterile walls like gunshots. Nathaniel was already in Ethan's room, holding the boy's convulsing body, while 2 doctors worked frantically, barking orders at nurses who moved with practiced urgency. Adrian stopped in his doorway. He could not move forward, could not process what he was seeing. His son's small body jerking violently, foam at the corners of his mouth, eyes rolled back showing only whites. This was not real, could not be real. But Eleanor's scream was real, and Nathaniel's face was real, and the terrible sounds coming from that bed were real. One of the doctors looked up. "Out!" he said sharply. "Everyone out now!" A nurse pushed them backward into the hall. The door slammed. Through the small window, Adrian could see them working, could see Ethan's body still seizing, could see Eleanor trying to force her way back in, and Nathaniel holding her back because there was nothing they could do, nothing anyone could do except wait. Eleanor collapsed against the wall, her hands over her mouth, making sounds that were not quite words. Nathaniel stood rigid, his jaw clenched so tight Adrian could see the muscle jumping. And Adrian just stood there, feeling the ground dissolve beneath his feet, because this was it. This was the moment where everything he feared came true, and his son died hating him. Minutes crawled past like hours. The seizure lasted 90 seconds according to the clock on the wall, but it felt like a lifetime. Finally, the thrashing stopped. Ethan went still. Too still. Adrian's heart stopped beating. Then he heard it, a small gasping breath. Another. The machine tracking Ethan's heartbeat continued its steady rhythm. The door opened. The doctor emerged, his face grim. "The seizure has stopped," he said. "We have given him medication to prevent more. But I will not lie to you. This is a very bad sign. The smoke damage was worse than we thought. His brain is swelling from lack of oxygen." Eleanor made a sound like something breaking. "What does that mean?" she whispered. "It means the next few hours will determine everything," the doctor said. "If the swelling goes down, if his body responds to treatment, he has a chance. If not..." He did not finish. He did not have to. "Can we see him?" Nathaniel said. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. "One at a time," the doctor said, and briefly. "He needs absolute rest." Eleanor went first. She was in there less than 5 minutes before she came out looking like someone had gutted her. She walked past Adrian without seeing him, down the hall toward the washroom. Nathaniel followed without a word. Adrian stood alone outside his son's room. Through the window, he could see Ethan lying motionless, tubes and wires everywhere, a machine breathing for him now. This was his fault, all of it. If he had never left, if he had been a real father, if he had put his family first instead of chasing a fantasy with a woman who never loved him. The door opened. A nurse gestured him in. "You have 2 minutes," she said. Adrian walked to the bedside on legs that did not feel like his own. Up close, Ethan looked even smaller, fragile, breakable. His skin was so pale it was almost translucent. Adrian could see the blue veins at his temples, the faint shadows under his eyes. He reached out and touched Ethan's hand. It was warm. That was something. That was everything. "I'm sorry," Adrian whispered. "I know you cannot hear me. I know you do not know I am here, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry for leaving. I'm sorry for being weak. I'm sorry for wasting 7 years when I should have been your father. I am sorry for every birthday I missed, every night you cried for me, every time you needed me and I was not there. I am sorry for all of it." His voice broke. He gripped Ethan's hand tighter. "Please do not die," he said. "Please. I know I do not deserve to ask you for anything, but please just stay, fight, come back. And if you do, I swear I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the father I should have been from the beginning." The machine beeped. Ethan did not move, did not wake, did not give any sign he heard. The nurse touched Adrian's shoulder. "Time," she said gently. Adrian let go of his son's hand and walked out. He made it to the waiting room before his legs gave out and he sank into a chair, his head in his hands, and for the first time in 7 years he let himself cry. Not quietly, not with dignity. He cried like a man who had lost everything and only now understood what everything meant. When he finally looked up, Nathaniel was standing there watching him. The other man's expression was unreadable. "She wants to see you," Nathaniel said. "Eleanor. She is in the chapel." "There is a chapel here?" "Down the hall. East wing." Adrian nodded and stood. His legs felt weak, but they held him. He walked through the hospital corridors, following Nathaniel's directions, and found the chapel, a small room with simple wooden benches and a stained glass window that caught the morning light. Eleanor sat in the front row, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. She did not look up when Adrian entered. He sat down beside her, not too close, leaving space between them that felt both necessary and unbearable. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Eleanor said, "I was 17 when we met. I know. You were 22, already a duke, already everything I had ever dreamed about, handsome and charming, and so far above me I could barely breathe when you looked at me. Eleanor, I worshipped you," she continued. "I thought you were perfect. I thought our life would be perfect. And for a while it was. We had Thornfield, and we had Ethan, and I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world." "You were not lucky," Adrian said. "You deserved better." "I deserved honesty," Eleanor said. "When you stopped loving me, you should have told me. Instead, you lied. You smiled and pretended and let me believe everything was fine while you were planning your escape. That was crueler than just leaving." "You're right," Adrian said. "I was a coward." Eleanor finally looked at him. Her eyes were red but dry. No more tears left. "Do you know what the worst part was?" she said. "It was not that you fell in love with someone else, it was that you erased us so easily. Like we never mattered. Like 7 years of marriage and a child meant nothing compared to whatever Celeste offered you." "She offered me nothing," Adrian said. "I just convinced myself she did because it justified what I wanted to do anyway. I was selfish and weak, and I threw away my family for a woman who saw me as a transaction. You were right about her from the start. You tried to warn me, and I did not listen." "No," Eleanor said. "You did not listen. You never listened. You just did whatever you wanted and expected everyone else to live with the consequences." The words hit like stones. Adrian took them without flinching because they were true. Every single one. "I cannot undo what I did," Adrian said. "I cannot give you back the years I stole. I cannot make Ethan forget that I abandoned him. But I can change. I can be better. If you give me the chance." "Why should I give you anything?" Eleanor said. "You have given me nothing but pain, because despite everything, you still love me," Adrian said quietly. "Nathaniel told me." Eleanor's face went white. "He had no right. Is it true?" She looked away. "What difference does it make? It makes all the difference in the world." "No, it does not," Eleanor said. "Because love is not enough, Adrian. I loved you more than anything, and you destroyed me anyway. Love does not fix betrayal. It does not erase abandonment. It does not make the past 7 years disappear." "I know," Adrian said, "but it might be enough to build something new. Not what we had. We can never have that back. But something different, something honest." Eleanor laughed, bitter and sharp. "You want me to forgive you, to take you back, to pretend like you did not rip our lives apart?" "No," Adrian said. "I want you to let me earn my way back. Inch by inch, day by day. I want the chance to prove that I am not the man who left you, that I have changed." "People do not change," Eleanor said. "I did," Adrian said, "not by choice, not because I wanted to, but because I finally saw what I was, and it made me sick. I saw the emptiness of the life I chose. I saw what real love looks like when Nathaniel stepped up to be the father I refused to be. I saw my son's face and realized he does not know me. And it broke something in me that I did not even know could break." Eleanor was quiet. Then she said, "If Ethan dies, I will never forgive you." "I know. If he lives, I do not know if I can forgive you either. I know that too." "Then what are you asking for?" "Time," Adrian said. "Just time. Let me stay. Let me help. Let me be here for him even if he never knows it. Let me prove that I mean what I say." Eleanor closed her eyes. After a moment she said, "If you hurt him again, if you leave again, I will make sure you never see him for the rest of your life. I will take him so far away you will never find us." "I will not leave," Adrian said. "Not this time." She stood. "We should get back," she said. They walked back to Ethan's room in silence. Nathaniel was there, sitting in the chair beside the bed, reading aloud from a book. He looked up when they entered. "How is he?" Eleanor asked. "The same," Nathaniel said. "No change." Eleanor took the seat on the other side of the bed. Adrian stood by the door watching the three of them, mother, son, and the man who had taken his place. The man who had loved them when Adrian did not. For the first time, Adrian felt something other than jealousy when he looked at Nathaniel. He felt gratitude. Because without this man, Eleanor and Ethan would have been alone. Without this man, they might not have survived. Hours passed. Day turned to night. Ethan's condition remained critical but stable. Doctors came and went. Eleanor refused to leave. Nathaniel brought her food she did not eat. Adrian paced the hallways like a caged animal, unable to sit still, unable to do anything useful. Around midnight, a nurse found him. "Your Grace," she said, "there is someone here to see you." "Who?" She said her name is Celeste Beaumont. Adrian's blood went cold. "What is she doing here?" "She says it is urgent. She is waiting in the main lobby. Tell her I am not interested in anything she has to say. She said if you do not come down, she will make a scene." "Of course she will," Adrian muttered. He followed the nurse downstairs, his jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Celeste stood in the center of the lobby wearing a traveling cloak and an expression that managed to be both imperious and desperate. When she saw Adrian, she smiled. "Adrian, darling," she said, "I have been looking everywhere for you." "Get out," Adrian said. Her smile faltered. "Is that any way to greet the woman you love?" "I never loved you," Adrian said. "I was infatuated with you. There is a difference." Celeste's eyes narrowed. "You do not mean that. I mean it more than I have meant anything. Now get out before I have you thrown out." People in the lobby were staring now. Celeste noticed. She lowered her voice. "Adrian, please, I need your help." "You need my money," Adrian corrected. "The answer is no. You do not understand. I am in serious trouble. The people I owe, they are not patient. If I do not pay them soon, then you should have thought of that before you used my name to rack up debts you could not pay. Now leave." "I have nowhere to go," Celeste said, and for the first time she sounded genuinely frightened. "No money, no prospects. You threw me out and took everything." "I took back what was mine," Adrian said. "What you stole. If you are destitute now, that is the consequence of your own greed." "Please," Celeste said. She reached for his hand. He stepped back. "Just enough to keep me afloat until I can figure something out. You owe me that much." "I owe you nothing," Adrian said. "You used me. You lied to me. You destroyed my reputation and my finances, and you planned to disappear the moment it all collapsed. I owe you absolutely nothing." Something shifted in Celeste's face. The fear burned away, and underneath was pure rage. "Fine," she said. "If you will not help me, I will help myself." "What does that mean?" "It means I know things, Adrian. Things about you that society would find very interesting. How you abandoned your wife and child. How you paid me to keep quiet about our affair. How you forged documents to expedite your divorce. I never forged anything. But who will believe you?" Celeste smiled, cold and sharp. "I have letters in your handwriting. I have witnesses who will swear they saw you bribe solicitors. I have enough evidence to destroy whatever reputation you have left. You are lying." "Maybe," Celeste said. "Maybe not. Do you really want to find out?" Adrian stared at her. At this woman he had thrown away his entire life for. At this beautiful, terrible creature who had seen him as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. And he felt nothing, no anger, no fear, just a vast, weary disgust. "Do whatever you want," he said. "Publish your lies. Tell your stories. I do not care anymore. My son is upstairs fighting for his life. You and your threats are nothing compared to that." Celeste's smile faltered. "Your son?" "My son," Adrian repeated. "The child I abandoned to be with you. He is dying, and the only thing I care about right now is being here for him. So take your threats and your schemes and get out of my sight before I do something we will both regret. You cannot just dismiss me, Celeste said. I am not nothing. You are exactly nothing, Adrian said. You always were. I just did not see it until it was too late. He turned and walked away. Celeste called after him, but he did not stop. He climbed the stairs back to Ethan's floor and found Eleanor in the hallway talking to a doctor. What is wrong? Adrian said. What happened? The swelling is getting worse, the doctor said. We need to operate. Relieve the pressure on his brain. It is risky, especially given his condition, but if we do not do it soon— Do it, Eleanor said. Whatever you need to do, just do it. The doctor nodded and disappeared into Ethan's room. Moments later, nurses wheeled the boy out on a gurney, moving fast toward the surgical wing. Eleanor tried to follow, but Nathaniel caught her arm. You cannot go with him, Nathaniel said gently. We have to wait here. I cannot just wait, Eleanor said. Her voice broke. I cannot just stand here while they cut into his head. We do not have a choice, Nathaniel said. Adrian watched them, feeling useless and hollow. This was his fault. All of it. If he had never left, if he had been there to protect his family, Ethan would not be here, would not be dying. They waited in a room too small for the grief it held. Eleanor paced. Nathaniel sat with his head in his hands. Adrian stood by the window watching the sun rise over the hospital grounds and wondering if this was his punishment, if losing Ethan was the price for his betrayal. Hours passed. No word from the surgeons, just silence and the terrible weight of waiting. Finally, the door opened. The doctor entered, still in his surgical gown, his mask pulled down. His face gave nothing away. The surgery went as well as could be expected, he said. We relieved the pressure. His brain is no longer swelling. But the next 72 hours will be critical. If he wakes up, if he shows signs of brain function, then we can be cautiously optimistic. And if he does not wake up, Eleanor said. The doctor's expression softened. Then we will have very difficult decisions to make. Eleanor's legs gave out. Nathaniel caught her before she fell. Adrian just stood there, frozen, as the doctor explained recovery protocols and warning signs, and all the technical details that boiled down to one simple truth. They still did not know if Ethan would live. When the doctor left, Eleanor looked at Adrian with eyes full of anguish. This is your fault, she said. I know, if you had never left, if you had been there. I know, Adrian said. You are right. This is all my fault. Eleanor shook her head. I do not want you to agree with me. I want you to fix this. I want you to make it better. I want you to be the man I thought you were when I married you. I cannot fix this, Adrian said. I wish I could, but I cannot. Then what good are you? Eleanor's voice rose. What good is any of this if you cannot save him? Adrian had no answer. He just stood there taking her rage because he deserved it. Every word, every accusation, all of it. Nathaniel stepped between them. That is enough, he said quietly. This is not helping anyone. Stay out of this, Eleanor said. No, Nathaniel said. I will not, because you are tearing yourself apart, and it is not going to bring Ethan back. He is in surgery. The doctors are doing everything they can. And standing here blaming Adrian, or blaming yourself, or blaming anyone is not going to change that. Eleanor stared at him. Then she turned and walked out of the room. Nathaniel exhaled slowly. He looked at Adrian. She does not mean it, he said. She is scared and angry and looking for someone to blame. She is right to blame me, Adrian said. Maybe, Nathaniel said, but blame does not save him. Only the surgeons can do that now. Adrian sank into a chair. He felt 1,000 years old. How do you do it, he said. How do you stay so calm? I am not calm, Nathaniel said. I am terrified. But one of us needs to hold it together, and it is not going to be her. You love them, Adrian said. Really love them, more than anything. Then why did you tell me she still loves me? Why did you give me hope when you could have kept me away? Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. Because the boy deserves to know his real father, he said, and because Eleanor deserves to make her own choice about who she wants in her life. It is not my place to make that decision for her, even though it means you might lose her. Even then, Nathaniel said. Adrian looked at this man who was better than him in every way and felt something shift in his chest. You're a good man, he said. I am just a man. Nathaniel said. Doing the best I can. They sat in silence. After a while, Nathaniel said, She is going to need you when this is over. Whether Ethan lives or dies, she is going to need someone who understands what she lost, someone who can carry that grief with her. That someone should be you. Maybe, Nathaniel said, but it could also be you, if you are willing to do the work. I do not know if I can, Adrian said honestly. Then you need to figure it out, Nathaniel said, because that boy upstairs deserves better than a father who walks away when things get hard. The words cut deep. Adrian nodded. You are right. I usually am, Nathaniel said with the ghost of a smile. 3 days later, Ethan still had not woken up. His body healed. The swelling went down. The doctors said all the signs were positive, but his eyes stayed closed and his hand stayed limp, and every hour that passed felt like another nail in a coffin no one wanted to build. Eleanor lived in that hospital room. She slept in the chair beside Ethan's bed. She ate when Nathaniel forced her to. She spoke in whispers like loud voices might shatter something fragile, and she did not look at Adrian at all. Adrian stayed anyway. He slept on a bench in the waiting room. He brought Eleanor food she did not eat. He paid the hospital bills and bribed the staff to give them privacy and made himself useful in the only ways he knew how. On the 4th day, something changed. Ethan's fingers twitched, just a small movement, barely visible, but Eleanor saw it. She grabbed his hand and leaned close. Ethan, she whispered, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. For a long, terrible moment, nothing happened. Then Ethan's fingers closed around Eleanor's hand. Weak, barely there, but real. Eleanor cried out. Nathaniel ran to get a doctor. Adrian stood in the doorway, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, afraid that if he did anything, this fragile miracle would disappear. The doctor examined Ethan, checking his pupils, his reflexes, his responses. Then he straightened and smiled for the first time since the surgery. He is coming back, the doctor said. It will take time. He will need therapy, rest, careful monitoring, but he is going to survive. Eleanor collapsed against the bed, sobbing. Nathaniel put a hand on her shoulder, and Adrian just stood there feeling the weight of relief and grief and guilt all mixed together into something he could not name. Ethan was going to live. His son was going to live. But the boy who woke up might not remember him, might not want him, might look at him and see only the man who abandoned him. Adrian had wanted a second chance. Now he had one. And it terrified him more than anything he had ever faced. Ethan woke up slowly, like someone climbing out of a deep well. His eyes opened in fragments, first just slits of confused light, then wider, blinking against the brightness of the hospital room. Eleanor was there immediately, her hand on his face, her voice breaking as she said his name over and over like a prayer. The boy looked at her without recognition for 3 terrible seconds. Then something clicked, and he whispered, "Mama?" Eleanor sobbed. "Yes, sweetheart, yes, I am here. You are safe." Ethan's gaze drifted slowly around the room, taking in the white walls, the medical equipment, the tubes still attached to his arms. His brow furrowed. "Where am I?" "The hospital," Eleanor said. "You were in a fire, do you remember?" Ethan's face scrunched up like he was trying to pull something from deep water. He shook his head slightly. "It hurts to think." "Then do not think," Eleanor said. "Just rest. You are going to be fine." Nathaniel stepped closer, his hand on Eleanor's shoulder. "Hey there, champ," he said softly. "You gave us quite a scare." Ethan's eyes found Nathaniel, and his whole face transformed. Relief flooded in, washing away the confusion. "Dad," he said. His voice was small and rough from disuse, but the word was clear. Adrian heard it from the doorway where he stood frozen. That single word, Dad, spoken to someone else, and it carved through him like a blade. He had known this moment was coming, had prepared himself for it, but preparation meant nothing against the reality of hearing his son call another man father. Nathaniel glanced at Adrian. Their eyes met for just a second. There was no triumph in Nathaniel's expression, only sadness, only understanding of what that word had just cost. "I am here," Nathaniel said to Ethan. "We are all here." Ethan's gaze wandered again, and this time it landed on Adrian. The boy stared at him with the blank curiosity of someone trying to place a stranger. "Who is that?" Eleanor's jaw tightened. She looked at Adrian, and in her eyes was a question. Do we tell him now? Do we shatter this fragile moment of peace with the truth? Adrian made the decision for her. He stepped back from the doorway. "No one important," he said quietly. "Just someone who wanted to make sure you were all right." He left before anyone could argue, walked down the corridor with his chest so tight he could barely breathe, made it to the stairwell before his legs gave out and he sat down hard on the steps, his head in his hands. This was what he deserved. To be forgotten, to be erased, to watch his son recover and build a life that did not include him. He had told himself he could accept it, that just knowing Ethan was alive would be enough. But it was not enough. It would never be enough. Footsteps on the stairs above him. Adrian looked up. Nathaniel descended slowly, his expression unreadable. "You should have stayed," Nathaniel said. Eleanor was going to tell him. "No," Adrian said. "Not like that. Not when he is still recovering. He does not need the confusion right now. He's going to find out eventually." "I know, but not today." Adrian stood, his legs shaky. "Let him be happy for one day without me ruining it." Nathaniel studied him for a long moment. "You are running again," he said. "I am giving him space." "It is the same thing." "No, it is not," Adrian said, and his voice came out sharper than intended. "Running would be getting in my carriage and going back to London and pretending none of this happened. Staying here when he does not know me, when seeing me might upset him, that is the opposite of running." "Is it?" Nathaniel crossed his arms. "Or is it just another way of avoiding the hard thing? Avoiding the moment when you have to look your son in the eye and explain why you were not there for 7 years. I do not have an explanation that will make sense to an 8-year-old boy." "Then find one," Nathaniel said, "because Eleanor is going to tell him the truth. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when she does, you need to be ready to face him." "What if he does not want to see me?" "Then you accept it," Nathaniel said, "and you keep showing up anyway until he does." Adrian laughed, hollow and bitter. "You give good advice for someone who has every reason to want me gone." "I do not want you gone," Nathaniel said. "I want what is best for that boy, and what is best for him is having both his fathers." "I am not his father." "You are." Nathaniel shook his head. "I am the man who raised him, but you are the man who gave him life. Both of those things matter. Both of those men have a responsibility to him." Adrian looked at this man who should have been his enemy, who should have hated him, who had every right to stand between him and his family. And instead, here he was, trying to help, trying to build a bridge that Adrian himself had burned years ago. "Why are you doing this?" Adrian said. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I watched Eleanor grieve you for 3 years, Nathaniel said. "I watched her cry over a man who did not deserve her tears. I watched her close herself off from everyone because she thought love meant pain. And then I watched her start to heal, start to believe she could be happy again. But there is a part of her that never moved on, a part that is still waiting for you to come back and be the man she thought you were. She has you now." "She does," Nathaniel agreed, "but she also has unfinished business with you. And until that business is finished, she will never be fully present with anyone. Not with me, not with herself. So I'm helping you because the only way Eleanor can truly move forward is if she gets closure. Whether that closure is you proving you have changed or you proving you have not." Adrian absorbed that. Then he said, "What about you? What do you get out of this?" "The truth," Nathaniel said. "I love her enough to want her to be sure. If she chooses you, at least I will know she made that choice with all the information. And if she chooses me, I will know it was not because I kept you away. That is a hell of a risk." "Love is always a risk," Nathaniel said. "You of all people should know that." He turned and walked back up the stairs, leaving Adrian alone with the weight of his words. 2 days later, the hospital cleared Ethan to go home. His recovery would be long. Months of physical therapy, cognitive exercises, careful monitoring, but he was alive and awake, and already complaining about the bland hospital food, which the doctors said was a very good sign. Eleanor made arrangements to bring him back to Thornfield, or what was left of Thornfield. The East Wing was a total loss, but the rest of the manor was intact. She hired workers to clear the damage and make repairs. She also hired a full-time nurse to help with Ethan's care. Adrian paid for all of it, anonymously again, through his solicitor, though he suspected Eleanor knew. She did not thank him, did not acknowledge it, just accepted the help and focused on getting her son home. Adrian stayed in town at a small inn. He told himself it was because he wanted to be close in case anything happened, but the truth was he could not make himself leave. Not yet. Not when Ethan was still so fragile. A week after they returned to Thornfield, Eleanor sent word. She wanted to see him. Adrian rode to the manor on horseback, his stomach churning the whole way. He had not been inside Thornfield since the night he tried to visit 7 years ago. Now the gate stood open, no lock to keep him out. But the dread in his gut felt like chains. A maid answered the door. She led him through familiar halls that felt foreign now. Different furniture, different paintings, different life lived in rooms that used to be his. Eleanor waited in this drawing room. She looked tired but composed. She had changed since the hospital, bathed, dressed properly, fixed her hair. But underneath the polish, Adrian could see the exhaustion weighing on her like iron. "Thank you for coming," she said formally. "Of course. How is he?" "Better. He is upstairs resting." Eleanor gestured to a chair. "Sit, please." Adrian sat. Eleanor remained standing, her hands folded in front of her like she was preparing to deliver a speech. She probably was. "I have decided to tell him about you," she said. "This afternoon, Nathaniel suggested I should do it privately, just the two of us, but I thought you should be here when I do." Adrian's heart hammered. "Are you sure that is wise? He is still recovering." "He is asking questions," Eleanor interrupted, "about who you were at the hospital, about why a stranger would care if he lived or died. I can keep lying to him, or I can tell him the truth. I choose the truth." "What are you going to say?" "That his father left us 7 years ago because he fell in love with someone else. That he has been living in London while we built a life here. That he came back when he heard about the fire, and he has been helping us since. That is putting it gently." "I am not trying to turn him against you," Eleanor said. "I am just stating facts. What he does with those facts is up to him. And if he hates me, then he hates you," Eleanor said. "And we deal with that when it happens. But Adrian, you need to understand something." Her voice hardened. "If you walk into that room and break his heart again, if you promise him you will stay and then leave, I will destroy you. I do not care about your title or your money or your connections. I will make sure you never see him again as long as I live." "I am not going to leave," Adrian said. "You have said that before. I mean it this time." "Prove it," Eleanor said. She turned and walked out. Adrian followed her up the stairs, down a hallway he did not recognize, to a door painted blue. Eleanor knocked softly. "Come in," said a small voice. Eleanor opened the door. Ethan sat propped up in bed, surrounded by pillows and books. He looked better than he had in the hospital, color in his cheeks, brightness in his eyes. When he saw his mother, he smiled. Then he saw Adrian and the smile faded. Confusion took its place. "Mama?" Ethan said. "Who is that?" Eleanor sat on the edge of the bed. She took Ethan's hand. "Sweetheart," she said, "there is something I need to tell you, something important." Ethan looked between her and Adrian, suddenly wary. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Eleanor said, "you're not in trouble. But this is going to be hard to hear, and I need you to be brave. Can you do that?" Ethan nodded slowly. Eleanor took a breath. "This man is your father," she said. "Your real father. His name is Adrian." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan stared at Adrian, his young face struggling to process what he had just heard. "But Dad is downstairs," Ethan said. "Nathaniel is someone who loves you very much and has taken care of you," Eleanor said carefully. "But Adrian is the man who gave you life. He is the reason you exist." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Where has he been?" "He has been living far away," Eleanor said. "He left when you were very small." "Why?" Ethan's voice was small. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," Eleanor said firmly. "You did nothing wrong. None of this was your fault. Adrian made a choice to leave, and that choice had nothing to do with you." Ethan looked at Adrian again. His eyes were sharp, calculating in a way that made Adrian's chest ache. "You left us?" "Yes," Adrian said. His voice came out rough. "I did." "Why?" "Because I was selfish and foolish, and I thought I wanted something else more than I wanted to be your father. And I was wrong. Do you want to be my father now?" Adrian's throat closed up. He forced the words out. "Yes, more than anything." Ethan studied him for a long moment. Then he said, "You do not look like a father. What does a father look like?" Ethan thought about it. "Like Dad. Like Nathaniel. He is here. He reads to me and teaches me things, and he does not leave. The words were knives. Adrian took them without flinching. "You are right," he said. "Nathaniel has been the father I should have been." "Then why should I call you father?" Ethan's voice was getting louder. "You are just some man. You are not my family." "Ethan," Eleanor said gently. "No," Ethan said. He looked at Adrian with something fierce and hurt burning in his young eyes. "You left. You were not there when I was sick or when I had nightmares or when I learned to ride my pony. You were not there for any of it. So you do not get to come back now and pretend like you care." Adrian felt like he was being torn apart from the inside. "I am not pretending," he said. "I do care. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know I cannot make up for the years I lost. But I am here now, and I am not going anywhere." "That is what all the fathers say," Ethan said, "and then they leave anyway." The words hit like a physical blow. Adrian realized with sudden, terrible clarity that he was not the only man who had abandoned this child. In Ethan's short life, he had learned that fathers were people who left, that love was temporary, that promises meant nothing. "Who else left you?" Adrian asked quietly. Eleanor's face paled. "Ethan, one of the stable hands," Ethan said. "He said he would teach me to fix the carriages, but then he left to work somewhere else. And the tutor Mama hired. He said he would stay until I learned Latin, but he left after 6 months. And you," her voice cracked, "you left before I even knew you." Adrian crossed the room and knelt beside the bed. He looked his son in the eye. "You are right," he said. "I left, and I cannot change that. But I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen. I am not going anywhere. Not this time. You can hate me. You can refuse to talk to me. You can spend the rest of your life pretending I do not exist. But I will still be here. Because you are my son and I love you, and I am done running." Ethan's lip trembled. "You do not love me. You do not even know me." "Then let me get to know you," Adrian said. "Give me a chance to learn who you are, to be the father I should have been from the start." Ethan looked at his mother. Eleanor's eyes were wet, but she nodded. "It is your choice, sweetheart," she said. "You do not have to decide right now." "I want him to leave," Ethan said. His voice was shaking. "I want him to go away." Adrian felt something inside him shatter, but he stood. "All right," he said. "I will go. But Ethan—" The boy turned away, facing the wall. The conversation was over. Adrian looked at Eleanor. She walked him to the door. In the hallway, she said, "Give him time. How much time?" "As much as he needs," Eleanor said. "He is 8 years old, and his whole world just got turned upside down. You cannot expect him to forgive you overnight." "I know," Adrian said, "but watching him look at me like that—" "Hurts?" Eleanor's voice was sharp. "Good. Now you know how I felt when you looked at me the same way." Adrian nodded. "You are right. I am sorry." "Stop apologizing," Eleanor said. "Start proving you mean what you say." She closed the door in his face. Adrian stood in the hallway for a moment, then walked back downstairs. Nathaniel waited at the bottom of the stairs, his expression grim. "He asked you to leave," Nathaniel said. It was not a question. "Yes." "Are you going to?" "No," Adrian said. "I am going to give him space, but I am not leaving. I am going to be here every single day until he is ready to talk to me, even if that takes years." Nathaniel studied him, then he nodded slowly. "Good." "Good?" "He needs to see that you mean it," Nathaniel said. "That you are serious about staying. Words are cheap, actions are what count. So what do I do?" "You show up," Nathaniel said. "You do not push. You do not demand. You just exist in his world and let him get used to you. And eventually, when he is ready, he will come to you. And if he never does, then you accept it and keep showing up anyway," Nathaniel said, "because that is what real fathers do." Over the next month, Adrian did exactly that. He rented a small cottage on the edge of Thornfield's grounds, close enough to be nearby but far enough to not intrude. He spent his days working to rebuild what Celeste had destroyed: his finances, his reputation, his standing in society. He liquidated properties he did not need. He paid off creditors. He severed ties with people who had used him. And every afternoon he rode to Thornfield and sat in the gardens where Ethan could see him from his window. He did not try to talk to the boy, did not wave or gesture or demand attention. He just sat there reading or writing letters or sometimes just staring at the horizon. Eleanor watched from a distance. She did not invite him in, but she did not send him away either. They existed in a strange limbo where the past was too heavy to ignore and the future too uncertain to plan. Nathaniel came and went, still helping with Ethan's recovery, still part of the family in ways Adrian might never be. But he was pulling back slightly, giving Eleanor space to figure out what she wanted. It was a quiet sacrifice that Adrian recognized and respected, even though it killed him to benefit from it. 3 weeks into this routine, Ethan appeared at his window. He did not open it, did not call out, just stood there watching Adrian read in the garden. When Adrian looked up, the boy disappeared behind the curtain. But the next day, Ethan was at the window again, and the day after that, slowly, carefully, getting used to his father's presence. On the 4th week, Adrian arrived at the garden to find Ethan sitting on the bench. The boy looked nervous, his small hands gripping the edge of the seat like he might bolt at any moment. Adrian stopped walking. They stared at each other across the garden. "May I sit?" Adrian asked. Ethan hesitated. Then he nodded. Adrian sat on the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between them. They sat in silence for several minutes. Then Ethan said, "Mama says you paid for my hospital." "I did." "Why?" "Because you are my son," Adrian said. "And I wanted you to have the best care possible." Ethan was quiet. Then, "Nathaniel says you saved my life, that you paid for the carriage that got me to the hospital in time." "Nathaniel is kind to say that," Adrian said, "but the real hero was your mother. She is the one who got you out of the fire. She said you have been sitting out here every day for a month." "I have." "Why?" Ethan looked at him. "Why do you keep coming if I do not talk to you?" "Because I am your father," Adrian said. "And that means I do not give up on you, even when you give up on me." Ethan processed that. Then he said, "I do not know how to have 2 fathers. You do not have to figure it out all at once," Adrian said. "We will work it out together. What if I like Nathaniel better?" "Then you like Nathaniel better," Adrian said. "And that is all right. He has earned your love. I have not. But I am going to try." Ethan looked down at his hands. After a long pause, he said, "Tell me about when I was born." Adrian felt his chest tighten. "You want to hear about that?" "I do not remember you being there," Ethan said. "Mama told me stories, but I want to hear it from you." So Adrian told him. About the night Eleanor went into labor 3 weeks early. About the terrifying rush to find a midwife. About the longest night of Adrian's life, waiting outside the bedroom while his wife screamed. About the moment they handed him a tiny, wrinkled, red-faced creature who looked more like an angry potato than a human being. "And I thought you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen," Adrian said. "I held you in my arms, and I promised I would protect you and love you and never let anything hurt you." He stopped, his voice rough. "And then I broke that promise. I am sorry, Ethan. I am so sorry." Ethan was crying silently. So was Adrian. They sat there together on the bench, father and son, separated by 7 years of absence, but connected by blood and grief and the fragile beginning of something that might someday be forgiveness. Then Ethan said, "I am still angry at you, I know," Adrian said. "You have every right to be, but maybe—" Ethan wiped his face. "Maybe you can come to dinner tomorrow." "If you want." "I want that very much," Adrian said. Ethan stood. He looked at Adrian for a long moment. Then he walked back toward the house, glancing over his shoulder once before disappearing inside. Adrian sat alone in the garden as the sun set, feeling like he had just won the most important battle of his life. But that night, everything changed. A rider came thundering up to Adrian's cottage just after midnight, pounding on the door. Adrian answered half-dressed, his heart racing. It was one of Eleanor's servants, wild-eyed and breathless. "You need to come quick," the boy gasped. "There are men at Thornfield, armed men. They are demanding to see the Duke. They say if you do not come out, they are going to burn the rest of the manor down." Adrian's blood went cold. "Who are they?" "Debt collectors," the boy said. "They have papers. They say you owe them money, a lot of money, and they want payment tonight, or they are taking Thornfield as collateral." "That is impossible," Adrian said. "I paid off all my debts." "Not all of them," said a voice from the darkness. Adrian spun. A man stepped into the lamplight, well-dressed, expensive coat, cold eyes. "You do not remember me," the man said. "But you remember my sister, Celeste Beaumont." Adrian's stomach dropped. Who are you? Marcus Beaumont, the man said. And you owe me 50,000 pounds. I do not owe you anything. Yes, you do, Marcus said. You see, my dear sister took out loans in your name, used your reputation as collateral, and when she could not pay them back, those loans became my responsibility. So I bought them all up, every single one. He smiled. And now I am calling them due. I never signed anything, Adrian said. Those loans are fraudulent. And prove it, Marcus said. In court, which will take months, maybe years. But in the meantime, I have legal documents giving me the right to seize your assets, starting with Thornfield Manor. Thornfield is not mine, Adrian said. It belongs to Eleanor, who was married to you when the loans were taken out, Marcus said, which makes her equally liable under the law. So unless you can produce 50,000 pounds by morning, I am taking that manor, and everyone in it can find somewhere else to live. Adrian stared at this man, at this trap Celeste had laid even from prison, and understood with perfect clarity that he was about to lose everything again. Only this time, it was not just him. It was Eleanor. It was Ethan. It was the fragile reconciliation he had spent weeks building. You have until dawn, Marcus said. He turned and walked back into the darkness. Adrian stood frozen. Then he ran. He rode to Thornfield at a full gallop. The manor was surrounded by armed men carrying torches. They parted to let him through. Inside, Eleanor stood in the entrance hall with Ethan behind her and Nathaniel beside her, all of them pale and terrified. What is happening? Eleanor demanded. Who are these people? Debt collectors, Adrian said. Celeste took out loans in my name, fraudulent loans. But they have legal documents, and unless I pay them by dawn, they take Thornfield, Eleanor finished. Her face went white. How much? 50,000 pounds. Adrian, I do not have that kind of money. I know, Adrian said, but I do. Or I did. Most of it is tied up in properties that would take weeks to sell. He ran his hands through his hair. I need time, and they are not giving me time. Then what do we do? Eleanor asked. Adrian looked at his family, at the woman he had loved and lost, at the son who was just starting to trust him, at the man who had stepped in when he did not. And he made a decision that would cost him everything he had left. I will give them something else, Adrian said, something worth more than 50,000 pounds. What? Eleanor asked. My title, Adrian said. The Blackthorn Duchy. The estates in London. All of it. I will sign it all over to Marcus Beaumont in exchange for clearing the debt and leaving Thornfield alone. Adrian, no, Eleanor said. You cannot. I can and I will, Adrian said, because keeping my title means nothing if I lose you and Ethan again. I would rather be a pauper with a family than a duke with nothing. The room went silent. Ethan stared at him with wide eyes. Nathaniel looked stunned, and Eleanor's expression was impossible to read. Are you serious? She whispered. Completely, Adrian said. I will give up everything if it means you and Ethan are safe. Before Eleanor could respond, Marcus Beaumont walked through the front door. He had been listening. A noble gesture, Marcus said, almost touching. But I'm afraid I cannot accept your title. His smile was sharp. You see, the only thing I want is for you to suffer the way my sister is suffering. And taking your title would end your suffering too quickly. Then what do you want? Adrian demanded. I want you to watch, Marcus said, as I take everything you love. Starting with this manor. Starting tonight. He signaled to his men. They raised their torches, and Adrian realized with dawning horror that Marcus was not here to collect a debt. He was here for revenge. Adrian moved before his mind could catch up to his body. He stepped between Marcus Beaumont and his family, his arms spread wide like a barrier made of flesh and bone. The torches flickered in the hands of armed men who had no loyalty to anyone except the man paying them. You want revenge, Adrian said. His voice was steady despite the terror clawing at his insides. Fine, take it, burn me, ruin me, do whatever you need to do, but you leave them out of this. Marcus laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. How noble. The fallen duke playing hero. But you do not get to decide the terms anymore, Blackthorn. You are not in control here. I never said I was, Adrian replied. I am just telling you that if you want to hurt someone, hurt me. They did nothing to your sister. I did. You destroyed her, Marcus said. His composure cracked just slightly, rage bleeding through. She wrote to me from prison. Did you know that? Told me how you seduced her with promises of marriage and status, how you used her and then threw her away when she became inconvenient. That is not what happened, Adrian said. She used me. She manipulated me. She destroyed my finances and my reputation and planned to leave me bankrupt. She loved you, Marcus spat, and you betrayed her. She loved my title, Adrian corrected. She loved my money. She never loved me, and I was too blind to see it until it was too late. But if blaming me makes her crimes easier to swallow, then fine. Blame me. Just leave my family alone. Your family? Marcus gestured around the entrance hall. This woman divorced you. This boy does not even know you, and that man standing next to them has taken your place in every way that matters. You have no family, Blackthorn. You have nothing. The words hit their mark, but Adrian did not flinch. You are right, he said. I have nothing, which means I have nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind. Is that a threat? It is a fact, Adrian said. You can take Thornfield. You can take my title and my money and every possession I own. But if you hurt them, if you so much as touch one hair on my son's head, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you regret it. I will use every connection I still have, every favor owed to me, every shred of influence left to my name, and I will destroy you the way you think I destroyed your sister. The room went silent. Marcus studied Adrian with cold calculation. Then he smiled. Empty threats from an empty man, Marcus said. You have no power here. Then test me, Adrian said quietly. Light those torches, burn this place down, and find out exactly how far a desperate father will go to protect his child. Something shifted in the air. The men with torches glanced at each other, uncertain. They had signed up to collect a debt, not to commit arson in front of witnesses, not to harm a woman and child, not to face a man who looked like he had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Marcus felt it too. His jaw tightened. This is not over, he said. Yes, it is, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Nathaniel stepped forward, holding a leather portfolio. I took the liberty of examining the documents your men presented, he said to Marcus. The loan agreements in question. What of them? Marcus demanded. They are forgeries, Nathaniel said calmly. Very good forgeries, I will grant you. But forgeries nonetheless. The signatures do not match the Duke's handwriting. The dates do not align with the timeline of his marriage to Eleanor. And most importantly, the lending institution listed on these documents does not exist. Marcus's face went pale. You are lying. I am a physician, Nathaniel said. Not a solicitor. But I have a colleague in town who is. I sent these documents to him this evening by courier. He confirmed my suspicions within the hour. He pulled a letter from the portfolio and held it up. This is his official assessment. These loans are fraudulent, which means you have no legal claim to Thornfield, which means you and your men are currently engaged in extortion and attempted arson, both of which carry significant prison sentences. The armed men started backing toward the door. Marcus stood frozen, his carefully constructed plan unraveling in real time. Get out, Eleanor said. Her voice was ice. Get out of my house before I send for the constable. Marcus looked at Adrian with pure hatred. This is not finished. Yes, it is, Adrian said. Take your sister's lies and leave. You will get nothing from me. Nothing from my family. If you come back here, if you threaten us again, I will make sure you end up in the same prison cell as Celeste. And unlike her, you will not have anyone to write letters to. Marcus turned and stormed out. His men followed, dropping their torches in the gravel drive. The flames sputtered and died in the damp night air. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Eleanor's legs gave out. Nathaniel caught her before she hit the floor. Adrian started toward them but stopped himself. He had no right, no claim. He had just put them in danger because of his past mistakes. Ethan broke the silence. Is he gone? The boy's voice was small and frightened. He is gone, Nathaniel said. You are safe. Ethan looked at Adrian. You really would have let them burn you? Yes, Adrian said, without hesitation. Why? Because you are my son, Adrian said, and there is nothing in this world I would not do to keep you safe. Ethan absorbed that. Then he crossed the room and wrapped his small arms around Adrian's waist. Adrian froze, shocked, before his own arms came up to hold the boy. They stood there together while Eleanor watched with tears streaming down her face, and Nathaniel looked away to give them privacy. "I am sorry," Adrian whispered into Ethan's hair. "I am so sorry for everything." "I know," Ethan said. His voice was muffled against Adrian's chest. "I am still angry at you, but I do not want you to die." "I am not going to die," Adrian said. "I am going to be here for as long as you will let me." They stayed like that until Ethan's arms loosened and the boy stepped back, wiping his face with the back of his hand. Adrian knelt down to his level. "I have spent 7 years running from the hardest parts of life," Adrian said. "From responsibility, from commitment, from the people who needed me most, and all it got me was emptiness and regret. I cannot change the past, Ethan, but I can promise you this: from now on, I face the hard things. I do not run, I do not hide, I show up. Even when it is difficult, even when I am scared, especially then." "What if I am still mad at you tomorrow?" Ethan asked. "Then I will be here tomorrow," Adrian said, "and the day after that, and every day after until you are not mad anymore. And even then, I will still be here." Ethan nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "Okay." Eleanor stood, still shaky but composed. "Nathaniel," she said quietly, "can you take Ethan upstairs? He needs to rest." Nathaniel nodded. He held out his hand and Ethan took it. As they walked toward the stairs, Ethan glanced back at Adrian once. Not with hatred, not with love, just with the quiet curiosity of a boy trying to figure out who his father really was. When they were gone, Eleanor turned to Adrian. "We need to talk," she said. "I know." They walked to the study. Eleanor poured 2 glasses of brandy with trembling hands and gave one to Adrian. They sat across from each other in chairs that had once been familiar and now felt like enemy territory. "That was too close," Eleanor said. "We almost lost everything tonight." "I know," Adrian said. "I am sorry. I thought I had settled all of Celeste's debts. I did not know about Marcus. I did not know she had a brother or that he would come after us like this." "She used you," Eleanor said. "From the very beginning, she saw you as a mark, a wealthy, lonely duke looking for excitement. And you gave her everything she wanted." "I did," Adrian said. "I gave her my money, my reputation, my family. I gave her pieces of myself I cannot get back. And the worst part is, I did it willingly. I cannot even claim I was tricked. I saw the warnings. You warned me. My friends warned me. I just did not want to listen." Eleanor took a long drink. "Why?" she asked. "Why was she worth more than us?" "She was not," Adrian said. "She was never worth more. But she made me feel like I was someone other than the Duke who inherited a title he did not earn. Someone exciting, someone dangerous, someone who did not have to be responsible or careful or good. And I wanted to be that person so badly that I convinced myself it was real. And now? Now I know that the person I was with her was not real at all," Adrian said. "It was just a fantasy. A lie I told myself to justify destroying the best things in my life. The real me is the man who loved you, who held Ethan when he was born, who wanted nothing more than a quiet life with a family that loved him. That is who I am. And it took losing everything to remember it." Eleanor's eyes were wet. "I loved that man," she whispered. "I loved him so much." "I know," Adrian said. "And I destroyed him. I turned myself into someone you could not love anymore, someone I could not even love." "Can you become him again?" Adrian shook his head. "No, that man is gone. But I can become someone new, someone better, someone who learned from his mistakes and earned his way back." "Do you really believe that?" "I have to," Adrian said, "because the alternative is accepting that I ruined my life and there is no path forward. And I cannot accept that. Not when my son is upstairs. Not when you are sitting here. Not when there is still a chance, however small, to build something worth keeping." Eleanor set down her glass. "Nathaniel asked me to marry him," she said. Adrian felt the words like a blow to the chest, but he kept his expression neutral. "What did you say?" "I said I needed time," Eleanor said. "Because part of me still loves you, Adrian. I hate that part. I wish I could cut it out and throw it away, but I cannot. It is still there, still hoping, still believing that maybe the man I married is not completely gone. He is not gone, Adrian said. He is right here, broken and ashamed and trying desperately to be worthy of a second chance he does not deserve. Eleanor looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, I cannot give you an answer tonight. I cannot tell you that we will be a family again, or that everything is forgiven, because it is not. You hurt me in ways I am still discovering, ways I might spend the rest of my life uncovering. I know. But I also cannot tell you to leave, Eleanor said, because Ethan needs you, and maybe I need to see who you become when you are not running anymore. I will show you, Adrian said. I promise. Do not make promises, Eleanor said. Just show me, every day, for as long as it takes. Adrian nodded. He stood to leave, but Eleanor stopped him. One more thing, she said. Nathaniel, you need to understand what he gave up for you tonight. What do you mean? He could have kept those documents to himself, Eleanor said. Could have let Marcus take Thornfield. Could have used the crisis to push you out of our lives forever. But instead, he saved you. He saved all of us, even though it meant risking the life he had been building with me. Why did he do it? Adrian asked. Because he is a better man than either of us deserve, Eleanor said. And because he understands something you are just starting to learn. Real love is not about possession. It is about doing what is best for the people you love, even when it costs you everything. Adrian absorbed that. Then he said, I owe him a debt I can never repay. Then do not try, Eleanor said. Just be the father Ethan needs. That is payment enough. Adrian left Thornfield as dawn broke over the hills. The sky was painted in shades of gold and pink, the kind of morning that promised new beginnings. He rode slowly back to his cottage, his mind churning with everything that had happened. He had almost lost them again, had stood on the edge of watching his family destroyed because of choices he made years ago. But he had also seen something tonight that gave him hope. Ethan had chosen to trust him, even just a little, and Eleanor had chosen not to send him away. It was not forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something. A crack in the wall. A possibility. Over the following months, Adrian rebuilt his life one careful brick at a time. He sold his London properties and settled permanently in the countryside near Thornfield. He took a modest house with a small staff and lived within his means for the first time in years. He worked with solicitors to untangle the mess Celeste had left behind, paying off legitimate debts and exposing the fraudulent ones. He visited Thornfield 3 times a week. Sometimes Ethan would talk to him. Sometimes the boy would ignore him completely. Adrian accepted both with equal grace. He helped with repairs to the damaged East Wing. He funded the rebuilding of the stables. He made himself useful without demanding recognition. Nathaniel remained part of their lives, and Adrian watched the way the man loved Eleanor and Ethan with a quiet constancy that humbled him. There was no jealousy now, only respect, only gratitude that his family had not been alone during the years he was gone. One afternoon, 6 months after the confrontation with Marcus Beaumont, Adrian arrived at Thornfield to find Ethan waiting for him in the garden. The boy looked serious, his small face arranged in an expression that reminded Adrian painfully of Eleanor. I need to ask you something, Ethan said. Anything. Are you going to marry Mama again? Adrian's breath caught. I do not know, he said honestly. That is your mother's decision, not mine. Do you want to? More than anything, Adrian said. But wanting something and deserving it are different things. Ethan thought about that. If you did marry her, he said slowly, would Nathaniel still be my dad? Adrian knelt down. Listen to me, he said. Nathaniel will always be your dad. He earned that title. He was there when I was not. He loved you when I did not know how. Nothing I do will ever change that. If I am lucky enough to be part of your life, I will be your father, but Nathaniel is your dad. Both things can be true. Can you really have 2 fathers? Ethan asked. I do not know, Adrian said. But if anyone can figure it out, we can, together. Ethan nodded. Then he said, I'm going to invite you to my birthday party. It is next month. Mama says I can invite whoever I want. I would be honored to come, Adrian said. There's going to be cake, Ethan said, and games. And Nathaniel's going to do magic tricks. Sounds wonderful. You cannot do magic tricks, Ethan said seriously. That is Nathaniel's thing. I would not dream of it, Adrian said, fighting a smile. What should I bring? Just yourself, Ethan said. That is enough. The words were simple, but they hit Adrian with the force of absolution. For months he had been trying to prove his worth through actions and money and sacrifice. But what his son needed was simpler than any of that. He just needed Adrian to show up. The birthday party was held on a bright spring day. Thornfield's gardens were full of children from the village, running and laughing while Eleanor supervised from the shade. Nathaniel performed magic tricks that left the children gasping in wonder, and Adrian stood to the side watching his son be happy. At one point, Ethan ran up to him, his face flushed with excitement. "Did you see that? Nathaniel made a coin disappear." "I saw," Adrian said. "He is very talented." "Come on!" Ethan grabbed his hand. "You have to see the next one." And just like that, Adrian was pulled into the circle of children. He sat on the grass with them, watching Nathaniel's performance, and felt something in his chest loosen. This was what he had been missing all those years. Not the grand gestures or the dramatic moments. Just this. Being present. Being part of the ordinary magic of watching a child grow up. After the party ended and the guests left, Eleanor found Adrian helping to clean up. She watched him for a moment before speaking. "He invited you," she said. "He did. That is progress." "It is everything," Adrian said. Eleanor picked up a forgotten ribbon from the grass. "Nathaniel is leaving," she said quietly. "Going back to London for a few months. There's a medical conference and some research opportunities he wants to pursue." "Is he coming back?" "I do not know," Eleanor said. "I told him I needed space to figure out what I want, and he is giving it to me." "That must have been hard for him." "It was," Eleanor said. "But he understands that I cannot move forward with him until I close the door on us, on what we were, what we might have been." "And can you?" Adrian asked. "Close that door?" "I do not know yet," Eleanor said. She looked at him. "But I am trying to figure it out." "Take all the time you need," Adrian said. "I am not going anywhere." Several months passed. Summer turned to autumn. Ethan started a new school year and Adrian helped him with his studies. They rode horses together. They fished in the stream that ran through Thornfield's grounds. They built a small treehouse that was structurally questionable but made the boy happy. Slowly, carefully, they learned how to be father and son. Eleanor watched it all with cautious hope. She and Adrian talked more now. Real conversations about their past, about the mistakes they both made, about the people they had become. It was not easy. Sometimes the conversations ended in tears or uncomfortable silences, but they kept having them because both of them understood that honest communication was the only path forward. One evening in late autumn, Eleanor invited Adrian to dinner. Just the two of them. Ethan was staying with a friend from school and the house was quiet. They ate in the dining room where they used to share meals as a married couple. The ghosts of their former life hung in the air between them. After the meal, Eleanor poured wine and led Adrian to the drawing room. They sat by the fire, the flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. "I have made a decision," Eleanor said. Adrian's heart hammered. He set down his glass carefully. "All right, I told Nathaniel not to come back," she said. "At least not as my suitor. He deserves to find someone who can love him without reservation, without the shadow of someone else hanging over them. And I cannot be that person for him." Adrian did not speak. Waited. "But I am not ready to be with you either," Eleanor continued. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. What you did to us, Adrian, it broke something fundamental. And I do not know if that kind of damage can be repaired." "I understand," Adrian said quietly. "But," Eleanor said, "I am willing to try. Not to go back to what we were. That marriage is dead and buried. But to build something new. To see if the people we are now can find a way to exist together without destroying each other." "What does that mean?" "It means we take it slow," Eleanor said. "It means you continue being the father Ethan needs. It means we continue these conversations, these dinners, this careful rebuilding of trust. And maybe, eventually, we find our way to something that looks like love again. And if we do not, then we find our way to being friends," Eleanor said. "Co-parents who respect each other. People who can exist in the same room without pain. That would be enough." "It would not be enough for me," Adrian said. "But it would be more than I deserve." Eleanor smiled sadly. "You have become someone different," she said. "The man I married would never have said that." "The man you married was a child playing at being a duke," Adrian said. He thought love was something that just happened to you, that you could take it for granted, that it would always be there no matter how badly you treated it. I am not that man anymore. No, Eleanor said, you are not. They sat in silence, the fire crackling between them. Then Eleanor said, tell me something. If you could go back and change one thing, what would it be? Adrian thought about it. Not meeting Celeste, he said finally. That is the easy answer. But the real answer is harder. I would change the moment I started believing I deserved more than what I had. The moment I looked at you and Ethan and thought, is this all there is? That was the poison. That was when I started looking elsewhere instead of being grateful for what was right in front of me. Do you think you will ever look at me that way again? Eleanor asked. Will you wake up one day and decide I am not enough? I hope not, Adrian said. But I cannot promise it will never happen. I can only promise that if those thoughts come, I will fight them. I will remember what I lost the first time. I will choose you and Ethan over the fantasy of something better. Every single day, I will make that choice. That is all I can ask for, Eleanor said. She stood and held out her hand. Adrian took it. She led him to the window that overlooked the gardens. The moon was full and bright, illuminating the grounds where they used to walk together as newlyweds. I loved you so much back then, Eleanor said softly. I thought we would grow old together, have more children, build a life that mattered. We still can, Adrian said. Maybe not the life we planned, but a different one. One we build together from the pieces we have left. Eleanor leaned her head against his shoulder. Just slightly. Just enough. I am scared, she whispered. So am I, Adrian said. But scared together is better than scared alone. Yes, Adrian agreed. It is. They stood there as the moon rose higher and the night grew deeper. Two people who had loved and lost and hurt each other and somehow, impossibly, found their way back to the edge of something that might be hope. A year later, on a spring morning, much like the one where Ethan had his birthday party, Adrian stood in the gardens of Thornfield with his son beside him. They were building a new stable, replacing the one damaged in the fire. Ethan handed Adrian tools and asked endless questions about carpentry and horses and whether they could get a dog. Eleanor came out of the house carrying a basket of lunch. She wore a simple dress and her hair was pulled back, and she looked more beautiful to Adrian than she had on their wedding day. Because now he knew what she was worth. Now he understood what he almost lost. They ate together on a blanket in the grass. Ethan chattered about school and his friends and the book he was reading. Eleanor laughed at something the boys said. Adrian watched them both and felt a peace he had not known in years. After lunch, Ethan ran off to play with the dog they had gotten last month despite Eleanor's protests. Eleanor and Adrian sat together in companionable silence. He is happy, Eleanor said. He is, Adrian agreed. So am I, Eleanor said. She looked at him. Are you? Yes, Adrian said. I am. Eleanor took his hand. We are not fixed, she said. We still have hard days, days when I remember and it hurts, days when you doubt yourself, days when this feels impossible. I know. But we are trying, Eleanor said, and that is something. It is everything, Adrian said. She leaned against him and he put his arm around her and they sat there watching their son play in the gardens of the home they had almost lost. Adrian thought about the man he used to be. The Duke who had everything and threw it away for a woman who saw him as nothing more than a transaction. He thought about the years lost, the pain caused, the trust broken. He thought about standing in a hospital, watching his son call another man father. He thought about almost losing everything to a vengeful man seeking payment for debts that were not even real. And he thought about this moment, this quiet afternoon with his family, this second chance he did not deserve but had somehow been given anyway. Power, he had learned, was not about titles or wealth or the ability to control others. Real power was the strength to admit when you were wrong, to face the consequences of your choices, to show up every day even when you were not wanted, to love without expecting love in return, to sacrifice everything you thought mattered for the things that actually did. He had been a duke who had nothing. Now he was just a man rebuilding his life one careful day at a time. And that man was richer than any title could make him. Ethan called out to them from across the garden. Come see what I found. They stood together, Eleanor and Adrian, and walked toward their son. Not as the people they used to be, not as husband and wife, not yet. Maybe never again in the way they once were, but as partners, as parents, as two people who had been broken and were learning how to be whole again. And in the end, that was enough. Not perfect, not what they had planned, but real, honest, worth fighting for. Adrian had spent 7 years running from the hardest parts of life, from responsibility and commitment and the people who needed him most. He had learned the brutal truth that some mistakes cannot be undone. Some doors, once closed, can never be opened the same way again. But he had also learned that endings can become beginnings if you are brave enough to face them. That redemption is not a destination, but a daily choice. That love is not about possession or passion or grand gestures. It is about showing up, about doing the work, about choosing the same people over and over again, even when it would be easier to walk away. As they reached Ethan and saw the excitement in his eyes over some small discovery, Adrian made a silent promise. Not to be perfect, not to erase the past, not to pretend the scars did not exist, but to be present, to be honest, to be the father his son needed and the man Eleanor deserved, every single day for the rest of his life. And in that promise, in that simple commitment to keep showing up, Adrian Blackthorne finally became the man he was always meant to be.